And just like that, we're live. Welcome back to Cache Canada Chats. I'm your host, London Westy, and with us once again is the venerable and wise CacheShadow of Ontario.
Wow. I'm not sure about wise. I might fake it and play it on TV, but I'm good with that. Good evening.
Hey, it works for you, it works for me. There we go. We're good. And Signal is right behind me, keeping me on the straight and narrow behind my right shoulder there. So we're good to go. We have the geocaching element with us. And I see so many people already in the chat room. This is great. And you got any news, Roy? What have we got going on? Besides Ontario, Ontario is the only place apparently that is not publishing geocaches, but that's okay. That doesn't bother me at all.
I'm not sure that's entirely accurate.
I didn't think so.
There is a map that shows things, which is created by a volunteer. There are a few regions that are not, but as the things are changing region by region, we're going to cross our fingers. So all the caches that are being reviewed in Ontario right now are waiting for that stay-at-home order to end. So at the moment, I'm truly hoping that June 2nd is the day I get to exercise my clicking finger, along with the other reviewers. So
let's hope.
Cross your fingers.
Fingers crossed. Yes, we have a question already. Let's dive right in. There we go. First question: what's in the drink, CacheShadow?
This is Stormy Bay Merlot, or Cabernet Sauvignon, or it's cranberry juice, or it's rum and coke. I'm not sure. But it's in a really nice glass.
Very nice. There you go. Okay, BK49NBK73, you're in for the contest. Whatever we're going to give away, we're going to give away something. You asked the first question, and that is the rules of the day. Correct me if I'm wrong, CacheShadow. That's the way you work it. You ask a question, you are in the contest to win something.
That's right. It's an irrelevant question to the thread, typically. So if you show up and simply say, why does my sister have blue shoes? No, is it relevant? We could probably make it relevant, but it's participation that counts.
And the answer that you get, you might not think that's what's coming, but you get what you get.
Elderberries.
There you go. So, and how have you been?
Very good.
You are sticking to home?
It's Groundhog Day, right? So, yes, for the most part, just sitting home, ordering things online, picking things up. And we've done a few outside trips for, quote-unquote, exercise and fresh air. But nowhere to go, can't use my passport.
Nice. And I have to give a shout-out to Canadian Tire. Their curbside pickup is the bomb. It is, I've never used that phrase before, except right now I'm going to use it. It is the bomb. It's amazing. You order something, and I ordered 4 things the other day, and I got an email the next day while I was at work, and then I picked it up on my way home from work. It was amazing. The next day, it was awesome. Everything was there. It was perfect. Really nicely done. And so friendly and fast. You pull in, you type your stuff in your phone, boom, boom, done. Awesome.
Yeah, the past year and a bit's been that for grocery stores, Canadian Tire, the whole shebang. So hats off to those folks.
Yes. Mark's Work Warehouse, you'd think they'd be just as perfect. It took a little longer. I don't know why. I ordered this. I ordered a new hoodie. Karen was complaining that I was looking like a ragamuffin. You might be able to tell that in some of the videos. My cuffs were starting to fall off. So it was getting that bad. Okay, so here we go. Okay, wait a minute. Boom. I think that's the next question. Are there a lot of new caches in the queue?
We always get this question every time. So I think the normal answer is there's more than 10 and less than a zillion. But we have been reviewing caches and putting them on hold, on lock, as we say. So I will tell you, I've been busy. So the point at time that the floodgates are opened, obviously we don't know from memory where they all are in the province, but there's a lot of them.
Yeah.
So it's been busy.
Nice. So are you currently working? Are you working on anything? Any of them?
At the moment, the queue is probably down to a couple of pages.
Okay.
Which is, no metric for you because I'm not sure how long a page is. But we're all working through them. It's been a steady flow. We've really seen a lot of people have gone out and they've actually recycled their old caches. They've gone out to caches which they've placed maybe 7 or 8 years ago. They've had their time. They've removed them and they've put one maybe nearby that previously wouldn't be able to place. So I've seen a lot of recycling. So new hides, new finds. It'll be hopefully fun for folks when they do get to get out there and the floodgates are open.
Nice, nice, very good. And we have Wayne Charles said, "Would it be considered bad to ask all local, to me, cache owners to send me coordinates to their puzzles and multis so I can know where I can hide some more wander caches?" You can try.
Roll that dice, Wayne. Roll that dice. On the flip side is, by just putting it here, folks might just say, "Dear Wayne, this is where my cache is hidden. I'd love one of your wander caches near mine."
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I think this is a question. Will all the locked and loaded caches be published at once?
There's two schools of thought. One is it doesn't matter if you put them all at the same time, because they could be, there's folks waiting, they're going to rush out to them. The other one is you could break them up and try and put them out over a period of time. Sometimes folks say I prefer that because people get a chance at an FDF everywhere. Other folks say I don't want that because then all the FDF hounds can travel a long way. They've got all the time to do it. Whereas if you do put them out in one go, they're over there and I can go over there. I got more chance of getting one. You can't win. At the moment, I've got mine in a bookmark list or a list. Whether I go through them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, have a slice of toast, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, to be determined. Depends how many there are. The other reviewers, what they're doing, I'm not sure. So the point in time that we do get to publish, I would look at it as being lots of little bulks. At the same time, when you press the button at this end, it's not instantaneous that it hits the street, so to speak. So sometime, but I think that it will be hopefully some busy folks out there. And as long as they're out there, I think the people will be appreciative. So we can't win that. How do we put them out and what timing? But we'll see.
Yeah. And Paul Harris says, "Nice new hat, Cache Canada." Yes, isn't that a beauty?
Oh, yeah.
Look at that. It says Cache Canada on the back.
Wow.
This came from Gatineau, Quebec. Shopped Canadian. Yeah.
Awesome.
And I ordered it online, and it came within 3 days. It was amazing.
Wow.
Yeah, it's very similar to the Bruce Zero's Cache Alliance hat. He has one. It's got a red maple leaf with a white thing on it. It's not the same brand, but it's very similar.
Yep.
And I didn't even realize that when I was ordering this one. I had the green Mickey Mouse hat, and it got so grungy, Karen refused to touch it. So we're going to have a burning ceremony.
Oh.
So I wanted something that was kind of subtle but Canadian, that didn't really blaze like Cache Canada. I didn't want red. So
Yeah. And you could lose it in the forest and not find it. Yeah, I get it.
yes, I've lost a hat like this down the Credit River.
Yep.
Where'd my hat go? Okay, D. Jameson says, "How long would you say you spend publishing an average week?"
Oh, so let's look at reviewing. So if we look at reviewing overall, bearing in mind that it's not just a case of caches coming in and getting immediately clicked and buttons. Sometimes there's a backwards and forwards. Folks could ask for advice. They could ask for help on how they can better make their cache page. There may be situations where I'm really sorry you're too close to a puzzle or multi-final, like Wayne. So there's some backwards and forwards. I spend about 24 hours a week, roughly. And that's probably on the low end. But that's not just reviewing. That's overall with other things that I do. So I create documentation. I support other reviewers as best as I can in different ways. And I also try and document a few other things. I'm also a bit of a stats geek, playing with GSAC and filing things for our team. But generally, I'll be online probably about 24 hours. Of that actual reviewing, at least 12 to 15 are actually in the queue in a typical week. It's been strange, obviously, with the different load with the pause with COVID. But there's a lot to keep you busy, even pre-planning for maintenance. So one of my other roles is to do sweeps, as we call it, which is going through looking for those caches that are unhealthy, that need some love, or they need to be buried, so to speak.
The dreaded CacheShadow message. Hey, psst, get out there and get your cache looked after.
This is your 30-day warning.
Yes.
So that takes a bunch of time too. So that is on pause at the moment because it's not nice to say to folks, hey, you have 30 days. Oh, by the way,
Right.
stay at home.
Yeah.
So those are on pause right now.
And people can still, I've done this just to make sure that CacheShadow doesn't bother London Westy, is write notes. Say, yeah, I'm looking at it, I'm trying, with the lockdown, I can't. But if
Yep.
people say it needs maintenance, and if you at least recognize, yeah, there's a problem, and then it helps your score and it helps you not have to bug them. But
Yep.
you
So,
know, right?
so as far as score, think of it when you own a cache, folks find it, they log the find, you get a smiley. That's great. If folks cannot find it, which could be maybe they didn't have enough time, they logged the DNF. Maybe it was raining and they didn't want to get outside the car. Maybe your cache is missing.
Mm-hmm.
Those DNFs, they don't really affect the score individually, but over time, it's not immediate. The DNF might affect the health score. So when a reviewer taps you on the shoulder, it's normally after Geocaching HQ has sent you a note saying, hey, your caches need some love. Post a note. If you post a note in your cache, it doesn't only tell the community that you're not asleep at the wheel or you haven't forgotten your cache, it lets your reviewer know that HQ's nudge to you was received and understood. So
Yeah.
there are times where you have a tough cache, maybe 5 or 6 DNFs. You know it's tough. The bot HQ, it can't read the logs. It just sees the DNFs. And your reviewer has to action them. So hop on
Mm-hmm.
there, say, check the cache. I know all is great. Or zones under construction will be for a while. Do that every 4 to 6 weeks. The bot will keep off your back. CacheShadow won't bug you. Community's really up to date. All good. Win.
Nice. The next question comes from Annie M. Being a reviewer, are you still able to cache for personal recreation? For example, for caches that you haven't reviewed.
Yep, absolutely. So because there's a lot of them, I'm not ruining my own fun of the adventure of getting to somewhere and finding things. But obviously, you do have situations where you'll see finals for puzzles and multis. Oh, I hear some pausing in the video.
Yeah, a
And
little
so,
bit. Yeah.
as reviewers, we do see what's out there, but we still have to find it. And it's still a lot of fun. We don't do FTFs. So I haven't logged an FTF in years. I think the last FTF that I was part of wasn't even logged as an FTF. I was with a group of folks. They found a cache that somebody else had published, but I don't think I've actually done FTF seeking in a decade or more.
Mm-hmm.
Which it's one of those things you don't do anymore.
You could do it for you because there are two other reviewers. So if they published a cache, you could go after it. Unless,
Yes,
do you see
but
it though?
we all share the same background view, same as any other reviewer or volunteer.
Oh,
That's
okay.
not a secret. So
Yeah.
typically, if it's a traditional cache that's out there, there's kind of a rule of thumb that we follow, which is, like give it a week. If
Yeah.
no one's found it in a week, like, all right, well, there's why. So if I'm driving by, sure. But
Yeah.
as I say, it's not high on my list. There's plenty in the
Yeah.
game, and
Yeah.
FTFs are just they're a
Yeah.
fake stat, right?
Yeah. So the next question comes from one of our patrons, Alex Mary. I have a question to say. I go camping, and there is a great area with 5 lakes all tied together and a great for kayaking. Now, would I be allowed to hide some caches there if I have the campground permission?
So the
That
theory here
depends.
is yes. When you submit your cache for review, that little checkbox at the bottom, the one that you assume doesn't give away your firstborn and leave all your money to charity for cats, it does say I adhere to the guidelines, which includes I have permission. So if you have permission for your placement, great. There might be situations where there are locations where reviewers are aware of special circumstances, so provincial parks and other conservation areas. We may say, yeah, you really sure? Show me. But for the most part, the permission aspect is the onus is on the cache owner because they're the individuals responsible for the placement. So if you're in 5 lakes tied together, if you're placing it and it's public land or crown land, no issue. It's down to you to check because the onus is on you to verify. So perhaps.
Now, further onto this question, if those lakes are not near your home, let's say 8 hours drive from your home. How far is it to the point where you can say, well, you're a bit far from home?
What's your maintenance plan? Bigger question. So if you're
Yeah.
someone that says, I work in Newmarket, my cottage is in Innisfil, and I go and see my brother over in Lindsay 3 times a week. That's your situation, then you perhaps could maintain a cache anywhere from over in Aurora all the way over to Peterborough. Who knows? But if you're someone that's kayaking once a year in Algonquin and you are on a smaller lake on your way out of town and you're like, oh, that's a nice spot. Well, if somebody reports that missing 6 weeks later, when are you going to fix it? So if you don't have a maintenance plan, then you shouldn't place the cache. And that goes for whether it's 500 feet from your house or whether it's on the other side of the province. So typically, if you place a cache that's a long way from home, your reviewer is going to tap you on the shoulder and go, okay, show me your maintenance plan. And if you don't have one, then you don't want to place that cache if you cannot maintain it. Maintenance is key.
I might have missed a question. If I did, if somebody can let me know what it is, or person can post it again. I scrolled up and I looked, but I didn't see it. So here we go. From Patricia Bell, another patron. Have you ever found a tick on yourself after caching?
I have not.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. I just had one on me the other day.
There, and it's one of those things right now. My left hand is touching the IKEA cabinet. Trust me. Touch wood. I have yet to be attacked by a tick.
Wow.
And I do go outside.
We were, Karen and I and Blake were out just the other day, and I had one, Blake had one, and Karen had 7. And then when we were making the bed in the morning, we found one on the bedspread. It was a good thing it was a white, one of those duvet cover things. It was white and was on the cover, so it spent the night with us.
Yeah.
And there were reports of people of upwards of 90 to 120 ticks picked off individually a couple of weeks ago. Yeah.
When I've cached out in Niagara on the Lake, Hamilton, those areas, the people I've been with have sat there afterwards and pulled them off. And I've not encountered that here. I'm in Newmarket, this area. It doesn't mean they're not there. They just luck the draw, right?
Very cool. So the question I mixed comes from Andrino and Korlova. You missed my question above. Are there more than 500 caches in the queue?
In the queue? No.
Not more than 500.
Not in the queue.
Not in the queue. There you go. There you go. I'm glad I got your question in, A and K. That's awesome. Okay.
There might be 400 caches that's made it past the queue.
Yeah.
But
I can answer this question
that's
for
a
you.
totally different question.
This is from Houston, Texas. Dave, another patron. Do you publish Earth caches? No. Wait a minute. No, he doesn't.
I do not review Earth caches. I'm not qualified to review Earth caches. Like, pretty rocks.
Yeah.
GeoWare CA is a fantastic Earth cache reviewer for Canada. Thank you, Sandra, for all you do. There might be times where I'm taking care of a series for folks and they have some traditional caches and they may have an Earth cache, and I may publish a cache being reviewed by GeoWare CA. So it appears under my name, but I do not have the smarts that our GeoWare CA has, and therefore, no.
Okay, here's a question. It's World Whiskey Day. I didn't realize. Is it? Come on. Is it World Whiskey Day? Single, blended or single malt? Well, I know my answer.
Every day is World Whiskey Day if you do it right. As much as I may enjoy an Ardbeg, my go-to bottle of choice is Monkey Shoulder, which is indeed a blend. It's priced like a single malt. And that was one of the Landsharks cruises we did, actually a couple of them. There was a Scotch tasting. And I will tell you, the first event was fantastic. We're all sat in the room, and a fellow comes out there, and he's got his spot on, and he's sitting there with his Glencairn. And they bring you out these Jello shooters, and they're all with all these different varieties of Scotch. And he says, it doesn't matter how much it costs, it's what the one that you like. So everybody's blind taste testing these 87 different kinds.
Yeah.
I think 8, 7, you lose count. And it was the blend that hit my palate the most. So
Nice.
I have a tour in Scotland, by the way, which was paused due to the pandemic, and
Yeah.
the fellow who was supposed to run it still emails me that says, "Whenever you get over here, good to go." So
I just saw in the latest edition of Food and Drink, I think it's called, from the LCBO, Glenlivet has a new Scotch coming. It's a single malt Scotch that is, I think it's called Caribbean. They put it in rum barrels, so it picks up the rum flavors into the single malt Scotch. And I thought, oh, I don't know, I like it. I think that would sound cool.
see,
I'd like to try it.
there's just a bunch of folks sitting around going, "Okay, I've got this really good idea.
What?
Like, we're going to take the same stuff we normally use. We're going to put it in that thing."
Yeah, we'll put it in plywood. It'll taste great and good for the lumberjacks.
I'll try it.
It's coming soon. I'm going to buy a bottle.
Score.
Oh, and Thursday is Canada Caesar Day.
Oh.
Thursday, because Caesar is apparently a Canadian recognized drink, and the Parliament has said so in 2009. So yeah, so I'm gonna have a Caesar on Thursday. I just read that too. Okay, so Wayne Charles asks, could you ask RCA777 if he could help me plan a mini fizzy challenge caches?
Mini fizzy challenge caches. You could take a look at all the existing ones that are out there in Ontario, and you would need to make sure that yours are at least 50 kilometers as the crow fly. No, actually 50 kilometers as driven by Google Maps away from those ones, so they're not similar. But they may give you some pretty good directions on what could be done, as long as they're published since 2019.
Yeah. There were some challenge caches recently published in London, Ontario, by a different reviewer that were kind of like the same line, but they were really close. They weren't close together. They were within 50 kilometers. I gave him heck, but yeah,
Have you ever gone to the grocery store, bought something, gone home, opened the cupboard, and you've already got it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
Because even though you checked the cupboard before you left, you didn't see it.
Yeah.
That's reviewing.
That's okay. I didn't. I was just trying to pull his leg, and I pulled, and he's yelled.
Excellent.
Why is that letterbox is sometimes at the coordinates and other times it's more like a puzzle cache?
Awesome
What
question.
is the difference?
All right. So when you look on the website, they call them letterbox hybrids, LBH. Hybrid as in not the real thing. So letterbox is different game entirely. That was where you used to follow a bunch of clues to find something at the end. So in the caching world, clues, not cool, need GPS usage. So they call them the hybrids. To have a letterbox in the game, you take any other physical cache, other than Where I Go, and you put a rubber stamp in it. That's it. So if you have a traditional cache, put a stamp in it, letterbox. If you have a multi-cache, stamp in it, letterbox. That's why. Is the game has changed the definition of letterbox a little, and back in the day, letterboxes could be hidden just with clues. Then someone went, "That's not geocaching," and they changed it. And now you'll see a lot of folks who will take a stamp, put it in their traditional. It's a letterbox, but you may see some folks who say, "Hey, I want to make it more like the old game." So some people will create a multi-cache, and they will say, "You can go to this location, find this information at the coordinates and use your GPS." Or secondary method is to use clues. So as long as you have a cache that can be found with true GPS usage, you meet the guidelines. But if you say optionally, if you want to play old school, which really is very inaccurate, say 15 paces. I've got short legs. My 15 paces is very different from Dave's 15 paces. It makes no sense. Then you could do it that way. But that's why you'll see different cache types or pseudo cache types being presented as a letterbox because they have a stamp in them.
You could be really creative with a letterbox caches. We did one in just west of Toronto was the first one we did, and it said once you're standing at the posted coordinates, walk to the end of the pathway. There was only really one way to go. Once you're at the end of the pathway, there's a large tree. Look on the tree for a metal tag that has coordinates listed on it. Oh, okay. So that was, once you got there, then you put in the coordinates, and then it took you to the final. That was fairly simple. We did one in the southern U.S. in a parking lot, and it used all the markings in the parking lot to tell you where to go. Once you're at the end of this walkway, walk across the white wooden bridge, or the white painted bridge, and that was the crosswalk. So, you walk across there and then turn left at the bush at the end, and it was just really cool. And then it did have clues that you had to collect to get coordinates for the final within all that walking instructions. It was really neat. It was a lot of fun.
Awesome.
So, okay, let me see. We'll take that away. How often does CacheShadow look at clearing out caches?
Sweeps. So in a world where there's no COVID, where I wouldn't be a jerk for telling folks to stay home, but go outside and clean their stuff. Typically, it's every 30 to 45 days. So when a reviewer in Ontario tags your cache for something, so if HQ send a cacher an email that says, "Hey, you have a low health score," post a note, check your cache. The reviewers get that list, and we have to action them. HQ make those lists on a daily basis because they are always sending folks these little nudges, but we might action them only every 30 to 45 days, sometimes longer. And there may be cases where a cache gets zapped on day 30, maybe a case the cache gets zapped on day 60. It's usually just luck of the draw on how the rotation works. It's a lot of work because you're reading a few thousand cache pages manually.
Okay, let me see. Any idea of what the return of events in CETOs would look like? Could outdoor events be allowed before indoor ones?
I hope that outdoor events are allowed. Then CETOs make more sense as a cache type. We usually have a lot of indoor events here. Any kind of limit on gathering basically kills events for us.
Yeah.
Events shouldn't restrict anybody. So if you have an event in your mind, for example, and it's at a location where no one under 15 can go in, that's not a great place for an event. We would say, have your event, and there's an optional post-event activity, go and do your thing. Well, at the moment, the Ontario laws require us to not have events over a certain number of folks. Someone's going to be sad. So we imply a different level of sad by not publishing, which bites. So fingers crossed.
Now, there are some events that I've seen where the venue is limited in size, and they say it's limited to the first 30 people that sign up. How does that with a reviewer?
In Ontario, we don't have that. In our wiki, we say if you have a limit, then we either A, suggest you have your event outside and have a post-event activity, or B, attending any event, as long as someone shows up at the coordinates between the start time and the end time, and even says, "Hello, host, here I am. I'm Fluffy Bunny." And they go, "Thanks for attending, Fluffy Bunny. Toodles, there's no chair." They've got their +1. So that's in the Ontario wiki.
Oh, okay. All right. Lloyd Baker. Does CacheShadow enjoy geocaching more now than when he first started, and why?
I enjoy the game more because I know more people. I don't go out as many cache runs as I used to. A couple of reasons. One, life, job, being grown up sucks. But I do prefer the options we have today, but I do miss the road trips and the groups and the events of yesteryear. It did seem that when it was perhaps not such a well-known hobby, it was more of a kind of a surprise when you bumped into other people and you have an event. It was like, wow, there's 15 people here. And there was an element of excitement about it. And now I think I'm older, wiser, shorter, tubbier. It's that little zing. It's become a little blasé. It's like, oh yeah, there's going to be 60 people there. It's going to be a great time. But I think I miss the newness of it. But that's not a slight on the game. That's just human nature. I'm old. Get off my lawn. But it's still equally important to me as it was then. It might not mean the same amount because my life's in a much better place. I'm really happy nowadays. 15 years ago, it was stressful, man, I tell you. But yeah, it's good to go.
The older you get, the happier you are.
I'll go with that.
There you go. Karen really misses the events and getting together with people. That's one thing that she is really, really not stressing over, but really missing a lot.
Yeah.
So the next question, and I had to kind of read it a couple times. This is Alex Mary again. Basically, further on his question: would I have to say the best way to get to the caches he places would be to go through the campground? And
No.
okay, let me. Can I take this? Can I take this one?
Yeah, do it.
Let me try. I'll be a reviewer.
You.
So you don't have to specify how to get the caches. You can just place them and let the geocacher figure it out themselves. That is part of the fun of geocaching is, well, how do I get there? Or you could post trail heads or launching points or parking coordinates, but you don't have to. There. How'd I do?
Very good. But if you want it to be helpful,
Yes.
the key is the cache accessible without trespassing?
Ah, right. There. Okay. All right. Next one. Just Joey, do you enjoy hiding caches, and do you hide often?
I loved hiding caches, but my twisted mind enjoys creating puzzles more. So I've got really lazy as of late, and I've had some awesome people hide containers for me, and I've given them puzzles. And sometimes those
nice.
puzzles don't have my name on them.
Hmm.
I have a bunch of containers downstairs in the garage, that I have to get out at some point. And I've been slowly archiving some of my older caches, which a few folks have noticed,
Yeah.
just to try and make some extra space. And I've been kind of dirty and hidden caches in similar locations before. So we will see.
Yeah. I haven't hidden a cache in a while. I have a few ideas in mind. I keep thinking of it, and then I have a lot of caches out there, and I have been archiving them as they come up, as they need maintenance. Or I look at it, that's a really hard area to get to. I don't know what I was thinking when I put it out, and I've learned then, it's like you really need to keep it limited. But it depends on each and every person of their own. But I for a while I was putting out too many caches, and it was just too hard to keep them up. But I have a few in my head. It's just a matter of whether I can get the time to get them out there. So. Okay, Margaret Peters, are caches allowed inside libraries?
With permission, that's definitely an option. So if the library says we are quite happy to have a container inside, I'll confirm libraries. Don't look at this as your local coffee shop or whatever else.
Yep.
Then library caches typically would be a multi-cache, where someone would go to something outside the library, get information for a redirect that takes them inside the library. And in those cases, normally there's a hint that has something that will help you really narrow down where the cache is, just in case the inside the building is not really clear, like a Dewey Decimal number, hypothetically. But those are allowed. You do run into issues where sometimes folks don't realize there's another library cache there or a cache nearby. So step one, get permission. Explain the game, ask them to check with other libraries that have a cache in the area. Lots of libraries are within a system, so if you can find another library in the same system that's got a cache and say, hey, librarian over here said it's cool, can we have one to bring them to our town? Fantastic. Look at other library caches published in Ontario. The more recent, the better. Give you a good idea what cache pages should look like.
Nice. What is the default radius around a CO's home that you'd not automatically publish a cache?
Depends who they are, really. Like if it's you guys, like that virtual, that made a lot of people burn a lot of gas. So I think we've got you down to like 300 meters at this point. There isn't a set number. It's really a case of density. It's a case of what it looks like on the map. It isn't really a trigger. It might be a judgment call. It's one of those where there are situations where folks are very close to their cache and they just don't take care of it. Other folks might be 200 kilometers away and they are so diligent. There's a single DNF, and the next day there's a log saying, went and checked it, it's good to go, or it fell out of the tree, thanks for the note.
Yep.
And that's very similar to the question people say is, shouldn't people have a minimum number of fines before they can hide? Same deal. You have just as many issues, truly, with folks who have found 1,000 caches with proximity or with bad containers as you do with folks who are brand new to the game. Everybody deserves a chance. You might get the tap on the shoulder. It's a roll of the dice.
David Stokes asks, I had seen a relationship with Parks Canada, and you could get a geocoin. Could you place a virtual in a provincial park, or about an earth cache? Or how about an earth cache?
So for those who are not in Ontario watching this, we have very, very, very large conservation areas and such in Ontario, which are provincial and they're government sites. Since 2005, their policy has not to allow physical geocaches.
Right.
And efforts have been underway. I have an annual attempt at this, at opening dialogue to see if we can improve/change that situation, particularly as geocaches would be visitors to parks that have been seeing reduced attendance over the last many years. Their present policy is to only allow virtual caches, which includes earth caches, as there's no placement. There is still a permission process. The park superintendent would still need to approve it. If you are lucky enough to get a superintendent who will give you an approval for a virtual or an earth cache, go to the Ontario Parks website, find the policy, follow the escalation process.
I know you can hide a physical cache in a national park site. Stony Creek Battlefield Park is
National
run by
Park,
Parks.
Ontario Park.
Yeah, okay. So you were talking. You already said
Yes.
that.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
So Parks
Yeah.
Canada or many other organizations, the organization which has a honking great chunk of green stuff called Algonquin, their policy since 2005 is to not allow more
Yeah.
objects.
Right. Okay. Because it's a good thing they allow the ones that are there to stay. That's nice.
We don't talk about that.
Oh, okay. Shh. Mum's the word. Bob Kirk. This is more kind of a discussion within the chat room, I think. But should we report all DNFs?
A DNF is a gift. It gives the cache owner the second chance to make the best first impression. And if many people think that logging a DNF is going to be a death knell on a cache, no. Yes, there is a health score out there, but the reason you get a nudge from a reviewer when there's a bunch of DNFs and not just an automatic HQ kill order is because they recognize that DNFs are a gift. It could be a really tough cache to find. It could be a situation where 5 people showed up and there was construction. They couldn't get through the gate. They all logged a DNF. It doesn't mean that the cache is going to end up on a hit list. What is more likely to happen is that a cache will get reported not on the cache page, or the cache owner has an overall, they've not been in the game for a while, and the HQ bot will say, they've not logged on for a bit or posted a log anywhere, and there's been some questionable logs on the cache. We'll get the reviewer to check. Or in Ontario, the reviewer might go, there's a lot of DNFs on this cache. At the end of the day, it's a lot like when you get pulled over for speeding. We all know that there's a lot of cars go down the highway and they go over 100 kilometers an hour on the 400 series highway.
Yep.
You might do 105 and never get pulled over. That might be that one day you do 104 and you do. DNFs are not a death knell for a cache. They are on your caching record. They're part of your history. They help the cache owner, or they should help the cache owner, because a diligent cache owner should see those and go, I wonder if it's still there. And if there's 1 or 2, if there's 3, I'm going to disable that cache to show that I have to go check it. Go check my cache, aka maintenance, because that's really important. We covered that earlier. And it's fine, it's good. Great, bring it back into the game. So a DNF itself, if folks ignore a cache that's not there, they don't log anything, no one knows. Least of all, the cache owner. And they are the most important person with every cache.
From Paul Harris, are you only able to review and release caches in Ontario, or can you release caches across Canada and the world?
Typically, we have our own sandpits. Mine is Ontario. There are situations where different reviewers may ask other colleagues for assistance. They might be going on vacation. They might. Audio go bye-bye. Can you hear me now?
We can still hear you. I just
There
muted
you
my
go.
mic.
Yes, it went silent for a second there.
Oh,
Absolutely silent. So reviewers may ask others for help or assistance if they've got extra load, they go on vacations. So you may see reviewers publish in different regions. There are times as well where we have a bit of fun and we might ask other people to guest review things for us. So if you look at the player accounts for reviewers across the world, you might see some other folks publishing for them. So we all have the ability, but we do have our allotted zone, and we typically stay within that zone out of respect for each other.
okay. We got a lot of questions up here. I don't think this is one that we can answer, but it's a fun one anyway. How many FTF streaks ended in May 2021?
20.
Team. And here's another question. Did you know that World Rum Day is the second Saturday in July?
I do now.
You do now. There you go. Second Saturday in July. What am I going to be doing? Oh,
Drinking rum.
yeah, apparently. Okay, here we go. Why is it that a letterbox is sometimes at the coordinates and other times it's more? Oh, is it? Did we do that one already? We did that one. Somehow, how did that one come up again? Or I'm skipping around. Anyway.
Good question, Michelle. I liked it.
Yeah, it was.
It deserves a second chance.
A few of the fizzies have been. Maybe this is a question. Yes. I live in Hamilton, and tree climbs are not allowed to be published anymore. Do you know if this otherwise cities are going to follow suit and why? Safety reasons. Did too many muggles complain?
There are many regions that have bylaws that none of us know about. I mean, none of us. You could live in a town, city for your entire life and have no clue that you're not allowed to chew gum on Tuesdays, right? Hamilton has a bylaw about trees. Someone escalated to the city and with a question about tree climbing. That ended up reverberating back. Hamilton tree climbs no longer allowed. From my perspective, they've escalated. Geocaching HQ has responded. We now follow that guidance. End of story.
When did this happen?
Might have been early this year, actually.
Oh, okay. Because
Yeah.
so, do you have to put a message out to cache owners that you know are in trees?
It would be a case of we always attempt to do things from this point going forward because that's the better thing to do, right, Dave?
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah.
So
I know a couple of tree climbs I've done in Hamilton.
yes.
So at this point, basically, you just kind of let it go and just go forward.
And it could be a liability issue. Primarily, if a tree is on public property and someone does a header,
Yeah.
they don't necessarily want someone to go to the city first. So as
Yeah.
much as there are terms of use in the game about who should and what be liable, it's still paperwork, right?
Mm-hmm.
So,
A lawyer will go after everybody and anybody to get money.
so a city will be able to use their permission, and all local laws apply.
I didn't know that. Good question. How long will Adventure Labs be published?
As far as I'm aware, they're permanent
Yep, pretty good now.
until otherwise, yeah. So if you've been lucky enough to get an Adventure Lab and it's out there, enjoy. I don't know of any expiry on them.
Right. And I can answer this one. How long do I have before my second Adventure Lab credit expires? At this point, it's not going to expire. Right.
They retrieved back the expiry date, so take as much time as you like.
Yes.
Maybe, which is good because people who rush stuff don't do as great a job typically as folks who have a little more time.
Yeah, Karen and I have a second. We were trying to work one where it worked together. We just couldn't come up with a really good story. We now have two different avenues to run. It's just a matter of when we can do it. We're in no rush. They're coming.
As long as Ducky B likes it, we know we're good.
He'll like it. What attributes are mandatory to add to a cache? Example, wheelchair for terrain 1 or chirp for a chirp cache. Are there any others? Are those two mandatory? And are there any others?
Yes. So beacon cache, yes, you should. If it's a challenge cache, you've got that option. It's one of those situations where you can add attributes to a cache and it should reflect its accuracy. You can add attributes to a cache and it doesn't. It is preferable to make sure that you do have the beacon, you do have the challenge cache, you do have wheelchair terrain 1 isn't necessarily mandatory. However, if you have a wheelchair cache, why would it have the attribute if it isn't a 1? You have to ask yourself that question, and there's a big debate about that.
Doesn't the wheelchair attribute automatically get put on when you say it's a 1?
You can break it.
Oh, I thought it. Yeah. Oh, you can.
Yeah.
Okay.
And honestly, the attribute I wish folks would put on their caches is the front yard cache. If you have a cache in your front yard, please say in your cache page,
Yes.
this is on my property. I'm okay with people being here 24/7, and I've told the neighbors there's no SWAT team showing up. I have a front yard cache attribute. That's a really good one.
So Michelle is further on in her question. Then why not consider them
Multis or
multis or challenges?
Because folks like that extra icon.
Yeah.
Take that multi, slap a stamp in it, magically it changed icon, and it's a letterbox.
Odds of LNA getting to go ahead. Is it still listed and published?
You'd have to check with the LNA organizers. I believe they're still disabled, looking at what their futures are. It would be down to them submitting it and on to us publishing any event at that point in time.
It hasn't been published yet?
I believe last I checked it was being rescheduled.
Oh, okay.
But I could be wrong.
Yeah, I haven't looked, so I don't know. There we go.
Joe's
Hi,
a guy
everyone. Yeah, I have a community celebration event that I still haven't used due to restrictions. Is there a time limit? I don't think so.
At this point in time, HQ have extended things, I believe, until the end of next year at this point. I could look that up, but I'm going to have to take my eyes off the screen. They recognize...
I think it was all through 2021, but they might have changed that completely open now. Yeah.
HQ recognize that things haven't gone as planned. And so we also know that the HQ celebration has been rescheduled to 2022 as well. And that's really one of these events. They're to coincide or support or cheer that larger celebration. So we're good to go for a while.
Yeah. Jennifer Abel asked pretty much the same as the LNA. Do you predict we'll have a local mega this year?
No idea. I would not have predicted that we'd be in the situation we're in right now. I hope so.
Yeah. There's a puzzle cache out there that apparently requires another, yet unpublished, cache in order to solve. How did that get approved? Oops!
I'm going to go with human error, or somebody hit edit after it was published. Either way, you could contact the publishing reviewer and say to them, hey, what gives? And they might go, oh, more caffeine needed, thank you.
Yeah. Good question. I've seen a few oops happen every now and then. Did you know? And I go, oh, shoot! Yeah. That was the response I got. It wasn't that one. It wasn't the one right... It wasn't that one right there.
Buttons get clicked.
Yeah, things happen.
Actually, one thing that's been interesting is with COVID, CacheShadow has hit the retract or the unpublished button more times in the past 18 months than in his entire career because things had to come back from events. And it's really weird seeing unpublished cache on your stats.
Mm-hmm.
So,
can you share with us some GC codes of puzzles you've created?
from the top of my head, heck. No, go to RCA 777's profile page.
There you go. If you have cache, I think that she meant, or they meant, caches that you've created for other people.
Oh, okay. Well,
so not off the top of your head, but if you could create a list, we could put it into the show notes or the the video
Well,
description.
well, some folks don't
Whatever.
want it known, but you can look
Yeah.
because the ones under my profile, I will put their name afterwards. So
Okay.
with
All right.
that's normally a
Yeah.
giveaway, but there's a few I've
Yeah.
created for folks outside of Ontario, but there are a few folks who don't want it known.
Right. Okay. So there. That's the answer to that question. Okay. When doing a puzzle, what is the best checker to use? And any hints on how to add it to the cache page when submitting it for review?
HQ have added a checker to the cache page for your convenience. So when you create a puzzle cache now, you can click the checkbox and allows folks to type in their proposed coordinates, and it will tell them if it's correct or not. There's two reasons why that's great. One, it's part of the cache page. They're already there. Two, you don't have to worry about some third-party website for checking going away. It's happened. And three, if you have to change your puzzle at some point in time, and when you update your final coordinates, you automatically update the checker. So when you create a puzzle mystery cache, use the Geocaching HQ's checker. It's in there, little checkbox. You're good to go. You don't have to worry about links or anything else. There are pretty checkers out there with more graphics, etc., that give you extra bells and whistles. Those sites will give you a little tutorial of which HTML to use for your checker to paste into your cache page. So if you want to use one of those, they'll tell you, hey, this is the HTML code you'll use, copy, paste, put your cache page, paste,
Yeah.
done.
Nice. I'm not sure how much of a question this is. Maybe we could give some advice. I have been reluctant to hide new caches that are creative, as muggles seem to find them before caches.
It's regrettable, but yeah, it's part of the game that time and effort can be spent on caches, and it just takes somebody, whether they're a cacher or not, to ruin it. And
Yeah.
I agree completely. It's not often that folks have the ability to have a piece of land at their disposal where they can hide a container that they got permission for, where they can be creative, and they've got a pretty good idea that's not going to get vandalized in a week. Even if you hide a birdhouse hanging from a tie wrap in the forest, if someone else sees it and decides, ooh, I bet you I can get that from here with this rock, there's
Yeah.
not much you can do about it. It's regrettable, but
To find areas of the city, like in a city especially, woodlots, or you think, oh, this is really remote. It's amazing the places people will go that you don't think, well, nobody will ever come here. It happens.
yeah.
If a puzzle cache cannot be solved without fieldwork, example, beyond what's on the cache page, does the CO have to indicate this, like with the field puzzle attribute?
It depends how much the CO likes their friends. So twist it around. If you have a cache that's at posted coordinates, which is not what you're asking, but you'll see where this goes. You have a cache at posted coordinates and it has a combination lock on it. And the combination, when you get to ground zero, there's a little card on the back of the box that says, calculate the density of a neutron star on the second Saturday in the third whatever of this moon phase of whatever moon of Jupiter. You're unlikely to solve that at ground zero. So even though you would have the field puzzle attribute, that kind of feels less like a traditional cache with a field puzzle attribute, more like a puzzle cache. Because you got to go use the interwebs, got to go somewhere else. You can't just print off the cache page, arrive on site unless you're really smart, and get to the cache. So flip that around. If you have a puzzle cache that gives as little information as possible, and someone gets to the location and they know it's a field puzzle, or they don't know it's a field puzzle, is your design that they're going to get there and learn and solve it on site, or go back and research and go back? If it's the latter, that's your design, they're going to learn about it. But if they get there and there's nothing there, what level of DNFs do you want to deal with? So it really comes down to your particular design. So a field puzzle attribute might be that thing that says, hey people, there's something here, you've got to find it. Maybe give it a whirl. Maybe see if people can find it just other information. It comes down to each individual design, and some folks are really good at creating puzzles. You guys are really good at creating puzzles, and people know not to just walk up and go, "It's here somewhere." They know to say, "We've seen what these folks have done before. There's some noodling involved,
Yep.
so try it out."
We've gone through the subject before, but it's worth going over again. No judgment here, just curious. Is Ontario the only province or state that has completely suspended publishing new caches? And there's a comment just below this question that says currently Nova Scotia is suspended right now.
I will actually find a graphic to show you all the places what are not. Because why not? Because we can. So there are, whether you're talking globally or North America, there are different spots that pause for different reasons.
Mm-hmm.
And so there is a reviewer from Europe. What they have done is they have taken all the reports from different reviewers and they have combined them to make maps. So these are not from HQ. And I'm just trying to wait for the graphic to load. So if we look at North America, at the moment, and of course the website's slow at the moment.
Okay.
But there are multiple regions, and some regions have never paused events. Some regions have paused events and done, for example, only in certain areas where there's certain permissions. And so it's been a mixed bag, but Ontario are not the only ones who have stopped, but we have probably had the longest pause on events of anybody due to the provincial order.
Yeah. What, if any, are the differences in geocaching policy between, say, Ontario and Quebec, or Ontario and another province?
No idea, never lived. Rephrase that. Never reviewed there. So each region, because geocaching is a regional game played globally, end quote, it'll be on my headstone. There are different expectations that have been set within the community. There are different expectations on how land managers or groups look at the rules that have been applied. So they may have different permission processes, different event processes in different provinces or states. So we just look. There are rules where Ontario are far more lax than other regions, but you don't realize it because you don't know that you're getting more than other people because you just get a green light. And there are things where Ontario may push back on it more than other regions, but you only know about those because you get told no.
From Michael Collins, what are your biggest geocaching pet peeves? Do you have any pet peeves, and what are they?
I do.
Oh.
When I come across a cache with a moldy log after the owner said, "Cache is fine and logged, go to maintenance."
Oh, dirty rat.
It's too easy to click a button.
Yep. Okay. We applied for another AL credit, but haven't received one. Any idea why?
No idea.
No idea.
I'm still trying to work out why the chicken with the Sharpie got to hand out the virtual credits initially, so Venture Labs is totally beyond me.
A and K, go on the Adventure Lab Facebook page. You're probably already on there. If you go on that Facebook page and just ask the question, and Brian Roth is on that page.
There is also a forum for Adventure Labs, but the other side would be is how many of you had, and how many people have had more than you have had who haven't got stunning blue eyes and long lashes.
I think they've only had one. Or no? I think there's
maybe they're too popular.
Yeah, could be. Houston, Texas, Dave, what was your favorite cache find, CacheShadow?
GCD, Washington State. Oldest cache in Washington. It was read my log. It says it all. Fantastic cache.
I think it was on our list for when we visit, or it still is when we visit. D. Jameson again. What is your favorite type of cache to find and why? Curious about Dave's answer too.
One's in really cool places I never knew were there. because you can. I've actually found guardrail caches that wowed me because of the guardrail they were at,
Mm-hmm.
like viewpoints or spots that showed me a path to a pioneer cemetery that everybody drives by every day that's behind a bush. And there was one cache I found that it was just a container in a guardrail, and then the writing in the cache bait said, "If you look beyond," it's like, wow, and
Hmm.
that was a great experience. They didn't want to put one inside the cemetery because some people, they weren't sure about permission, and it was a great find. So caches in locations that I never knew were there are my favorite, regardless of cache type.
Yeah. My favorite cache type, probably everybody would guess, is an earth cache. Right now, because of what we're trying to do, filling a Physioverse caches, although right now it's a little difficult, I just find they tend to take you to more amazing wow factor, and you learn a little something from it too. But the views sometimes you get, earth caches will get you there more than a traditional or a mystery or that, particularly in the case where if they're in national parks or provincial parks, because you can't put a physical cache there. So this is a way to get you there, and see what you can see. We have been to some amazing places through earth caching, so that's my favorite. What's the worst swag you've ever found in a cache? Well,
Where do you start?
yeah,
Are we specifying the liquid it was floating in, or are we just talking about the item itself?
I think the
Um,
item itself.
the item itself. But there are situations where non-caches find caches and they look for containers and they assume it's going to be funny. So I found everything you can possibly think of in one cache. It's almost like they've gone around and they've searched. But typically I've
Hmm.
been lucky. Usually it's something that's wet and soggy that shouldn't be wet and soggy. I
Yeah.
did find someone put a t-shirt. They wrapped it in a nice plastic container.
Hmm.
Um, and they put it inside, but it wasn't watertight, and it was just moldy because
Oh,
everybody's like, "I don't want that."
yeah.
And when you got there, it was growing. There was mushrooms on it. It was an old cache. It was in the States.
Hmm.
That was up there on the ew. And as you see to it like this, right? You're taking it. Yeah, it wasn't pretty.
Yeah. We don't look for swag when we go. We look at it sometimes. Well, that's kind of cute. That's neat. But I'm not into collecting. I have enough stuff in my house already. As you can tell, look at my bookshelf. It's just cluttered. So we don't need to collect anything else. Well, we do enjoy looking at it. We like to show it in our videos to say, this is really cute. Because some people are really into swag and they really want to see. And there are some cool things in there. Probably the worst swag, I wouldn't call it swag, is but the inappropriate things that I find in caches, like cigarettes or drug paraphernalia, and it's just things. And some, I've posted the questions like, I found this a glass pipe. Well, so what's wrong with that? And I'm like, well, it's not. It's glass for one thing. I just find that's just inappropriate, and it's a family adventure, and it shouldn't.
Actually,
There's,
family
yeah,
friendly.
yeah. There's some things that just shouldn't be there. What country are you looking forward to collecting in the future? And will there be a number of country souvenirs? Ohio Rider from Nova Scotia. Looking forward for a future cruise with land sharks.
I miss you, buddy. I really do. It's not a cruise unless John's on the cruise. I'm looking forward to hopefully getting maybe Singapore. I'd love to get Singapore. I would like to get, well, previously India. Yeah,
Hmm.
little troublesome nowadays for anybody to try and plan travel anywhere.
Yep.
Um, I I want to just go somewhere new, which is a challenge in itself. I
Yeah,
think that
you've got a lot of countries under your belt.
yeah, I'm at 50, but
50. I think we're at
John's
28
got
or
more.
18. Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Nice.
Yeah.
John, it's good to have you with us on Cache Canada Chats from Nova Scotia. That's cool. Nice.
And it's I think I want to go at some point in time New Zealand or Australia. There needs to be some extra mileage involved, but I'd like to go
Yeah.
to Dubai as well. So we'll see.
My go-to place right now would be New Zealand. Yeah. Some checkers have special features like Certitude, which lets you Use a keyword. GeoCheck, I think, allows you to use several different coordinates with different messages. Oh,
Yep.
that must be an answer to a question.
Yep. Yeah, I was saying earlier on is there are features that different ones have, which can be kind of neat.
Yeah.
But do you need them?
Yeah, okay, that's just, I got to try to find ones that are questions. Okay, there. I noticed that I can no longer see lab caches on the geocaching website as well as on the app. Did they stop having them on there?
That's a good question. On the app, it should still. Let me take a look. Maybe something got oopsed.
Changed?
Yeah, look at that. Learn something new every day.
Is that new? I'll have to look.
Good call.
Very interesting. Okay, we'll have to take a look at that.
Actually, you know what? Let me just turn off my filters a second. Maybe I have filters on. Hold on.
Oh, here we go. This is a good
Actually, you
question.
know what? I do see Adventure Labs on my app. You may
Okay.
have a filter enabled, as I just did.
Yeah, Alex,
No,
check your filters to see. I've had that happen too. How come I can't find these? And right now my phone is filtered just for mystery caches because we did a 1 Minute Wednesday today. Yes, I know today's Saturday.
So if you press the filter icon on the top row, looks like a funnel, and then just press reset in the top right, then apply and look back at your map. If you have the latest version of the app, you should see Adventure Labs. As for them being seen on the regular geocaching site, not sure that was a thing. You need to go to the app to see them.
What do either of you do? Well, for both of us, it's a good question. Do as a living. What do you do? What do you do for your normal day to make money to put bread on the table? Because obviously, geocaching doesn't pay the bills.
No. You first.
Well, it does. It does for us just a little bit.
Oh,
kinda.
yeah.
Yeah, we do. We do make a little bit of money, and I'll share that with you after you answer this question.
I work for a bank, and I manage disaster recovery and do infrastructure and project management
Nice.
stuffs.
Computer work. So you can work from home.
I can indeed.
Nice. I currently have a job I could probably work from home. I work for General Motors in Ingersoll, Ontario. We are currently producing the Chevrolet Equinox, and we are going to be producing the nation's first all-electric vehicle. It will be a commercial delivery van, and it is slated for production at some point in the future. Can't share that with you. I'm now on the launch team for that product. I've left the job that I had in the company, so now I am currently working in an office, and I'm helping develop the quality inspections for this next product.
So you're the guy that smashes the champagne on the side of each one and they roll out the door?
Yes,
Awesome.
there you go.
I like that.
I used to drive for 5 years. I drove them out of the building. You know, it was the very last station, and I would just get in, I'd turn the key on, and I'd drive out onto a test track and drive around and listen for shakes and rattles.
So you did smell like new car smell the entire time.
Yeah, all the time, and I tell you, it's overrated. Way overrated. Okay,
New
here
car
we go.
smell by Axe.
Yeah, it's like, what? Okay, what? Okay, here, I think, no, that one. Okay. What is your opinion on glass cache containers?
To be avoided, ... But I'm sure there might be a place and time.
I've seen some, and they're probably, it depends on where they are, they would hold up pretty well. As long as they're really in there and there's nothing around and there's good and stable, they're good.
Yeah, I've seen, I would say, like demijohn size containers with logs, and they lasted like 2 or 3 days and got smashed. But I've seen folks have creative containers which lasted for years. All again depends place and time.
Yeah. McCabe97 here says, CacheShadow is back.
I think it's a question. Yes.
Is that a question? Oh,
Yes. Well, there's no question mark in it. Maybe not.
there you go. Oh, I'll put that down as they asked a question. There you go.
Ask another one, Angela.
Yeah, pin light. 97. There you go. Ask her. Come back with us with a regular question. Anything. And that's the rules of this game here. It's about geocaching, but really, you can ask anything you want. You might not get an answer. We'll try our best.
And today, to save time, in case Dave spins a prize wheel and no name comes up, we're going to say the next name directly to the left.
Yeah, there you go.
We'll save time.
I can't see them. Blah, 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 blah. Make sure I don't... sometimes this scrolling... It jumps on me. When somebody adds a question, then it jumps on me, and I forget where I'm looking. Okay, I think this is the next one down. Will souvenirs be created for every country that has a cache, or is there a minimum number of caches required before a country gets a country souvenir? Countries like St. Martin or Antigua.
I have no idea how HQ prioritizes them. It may be a case of they've created a list and put them into a hat and pulled them out in order. It might be a case of stats. Do not know. I am surprised when they are released, and I'm typically, as I'm sure you are, Barb, quite happy when they are put up, because now and again I open my app and find I have a new souvenir.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Barb, it's nice to see you here. She's traveling a nice little bit, doing some nice trail caching, getting into the fresh air. That's always good. Okay. How happy are you that so many people are suddenly into... I just answered that question. There you go. Are into hiking on trails.
You mean the best advertisement for folks to get outdoors was to tell them to stay indoors?
Yes. Yeah, get out there. Hike a trail. Okay, here we go. Are you going to be attending Geo Woodstock, whatever that number is, 18? 18.
It is at the top of my to-do list, truly. It'll be a great time. See so many familiar folks, and I'm sure a lot of new things and some great experiences. So that is probably primary on the only caching plan I really have at this point.
Yes. It wasn't on our drawing board for 2022, but it's going to have to be. We are lucky now. We have a family member. Our daughter now lives in BC. It's a bit of a drive, but it's okay. Kelowna to Abbotsford is not that far.
That's
it's doable.
Great.
Yeah. And hopefully we can go there in July. We have a flight booked. It's a matter of whether the flight stays booked. Do you think webcam caches will ever return?
I don't think so, because of the privacy issues that there are surround any kind of cameras nowadays. The ones that are out there, again, are grandfathered. But even the questions that some jurisdictions have on, people have got Nest doorbell cams, and they've got all the Ring cams, and in some towns it's, in theory, not legal. I don't think that people want to get into that on a grander scale. It's unfortunate because they were fun, but the other reason they were fun is because there weren't many of them. Yeah,
that's what people ask. We've been doing the webcams, and we have 74 of them or something. I've lost track because we haven't been able to do one in such a long time. I don't want to see them come back because I'm having fun getting the ones that are out there now and trying to get them before they get archived. So I don't want to see more added, because that's the same thing as people were thinking about with virtual caches when virtual caches came back. If you had for Ontario, you had a challenge for find all the virtual caches in Ontario. There might have been 75. I don't know the number that were. Some people got them all, and then now you've launched more virtuals onto it. Yeah, you did do the challenge, but now you got to get more. I don't want to see more webcams. I like the way it is. Whatever happened to Geocacher of the Month?
Good question. No idea. I don't know, actually. This week they had a newsletter with the DNF reminder. So if you could look back in 2014, there was on the grounds Geocaching HQ's YouTube channel, there was a funny video for their DNF Pride, and Dean NF, who was the person on the picture on the newsletter, he was geocacher of the month at that point in time. He always was one of the ones at top his mind. So maybe what happened to him? So yeah, no idea. Maybe it's on hiatus while people take care of other things. Who knows?
Yeah, could be. Do you know if there's any way to get another Adventure Lab credit, or is it a random thing? On the Adventure Lab app, if you haven't already, on one of the buttons somewhere in there, I haven't done a quick tip for that yet, but you can request on the Adventure Lab app. You can press request if you haven't done that already, or go on to either the whatever you call those things that I don't go on. Go on to the Adventure Lab Facebook page and just kind of post it. Oh, hey, can I get another Adventure Lab? Somebody else see it. Where and when is Geo Woodstock 18?
Abbotsford, BC.
Could be a new geocacher.
Next year.
Next year,
Let's get you. You could go to geowoodstock.com and get all the information.
Yes.
GEO Woodstock.
What is your favorite beer for both of you?
There are many reasons why, but it wouldn't be it's a favorite selectively, but I've always enjoyed Pilsner Urquell. But I don't drink beer that often. I'm round enough. But I do prefer craft brews, and I like the variety.
Yes.
And I think that's where my taste is headed. But if somebody were to say, here's a restaurant, we only have out of the fridge stuff from the back of a truck, Pilsner Urquell, maybe Beck's.
My I don't have a go-to beer. I have a few, but craft beer right now. But if you would ask me what type of beer I'm going to ask for, and usually it'll either be a lager, a very, not a light, not like a Coors Light, but a light, crisp beer. That usually in the summertime, that's what I'm looking for, or an amber. I love amber beers to death, and Karen's favorite is a stout. She loves stouts.
You see, if you said to me what my favorite Guinness was, I would have said Guinness.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Camper 69. Do caches in Saint Pierre and Miquelon count as France as a souvenir?
I don't believe they do, even though they are a protectorate.
I don't think they do. I read something somewhere they made sure that they didn't. They didn't want people to go there. I don't know if that's the reason, but they don't.
And I think because it lights up the continent.
Yeah. July, yeah, okay. Gary says, Geo Woodstock 18 will be in July, August. It still depends on when the big event is held in Seattle. If Ontario allows folks to start mingling outside, but not inside, any chance of allowing events that are only outside? She's finally asked a regular question. Great question, and we can answer it again.
Yes, we'll answer it differently just for you.
Yeah.
As soon as the limits to the number of people are revised, then it opens the door to seeing what our other options are.
There you go. The next question, I'd like to know this, because I'm like, why is it that? Do you know the reason why geocaching chose a ghost icon to use for a virtual cache?
No, but I can make educated guesses. One, you can see right through it because they're all just things covered in sheets, right? And when they take the sheet off, there's nothing there. Two, maybe someone just thought that was a really cool icon. Or three, they just wanted to make them spooky.
Did you notice that at the icon, there's two different ones that you can see? One is a very scary looking clawed kind of ghost, and one is a smiley face ghost, which I use on our videos. I use the smiley nice one. I don't know why they make that one look so scary. I don't know, maybe ghosts are supposed to be scary. I don't know.
Not really there.
Ghost. Yeah. Okay. The Pizza Ninja. Hi, Pizza Ninja. If you could get a first to find on a Where I Go or Adventure Lab, which one would you get?
If I was still getting them, I'd go for the Where I Go.
Yeah, because it would count more.
Because it's more of a fake stat that other people can see.
Yeah, you can't record because the Where I Go first to find you can record on Project GC, but an Adventure Lab first to find you can't. You just can't. And I do have a Where I Go first to find. somewhere. It wasn't intentional. It just happened. I didn't go out of my way to do it.
David's right.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's not. It's
Yes.
not.
Yeah, it is loving. It is lovingly close to water.
Yes. Yeah. Ask Geocaching with Hailmeister and Neil Moore about London Westy at Midwest Geobash and drinking his beer. I was drinking water, is what I was drinking.
Yes.
Dave Ferris. Hello, Dave Ferris, Mr. KBK. DT rating topic. If a cache is muggled and has to be moved or changed slightly, should it be archived and republished versus changing the rating?
Darned if you do, darned if you don't.
Depends.
It's one of those situations where a lot of folks will be concerned if you choose on your cache that you're rating accurately because you think that's correct, because it is, if you change your terrain rating, because it might affect their challenge. But then again, if it was a 1-1 becoming a 1-5, probably less likely than if it were a 2.5, 4.5.
Yeah.
The flip side is, if you have any part of that cache experience that's different from what it was before, then why not create new cache? Why not give folks the chance to re-experience your new thing you're offering them? It's another Smiley. It's another caching adventure. Weigh it up, work out what you think it should be, and as the cache owner, the onus is really down to you. It's your decision. Other folks may not like it either way, but what is correct is what works for you that's within the guidelines.
Next question. Any chance of having a separate icon for challenge caches?
I truly hope not, and I will tell you why. Not only can you find challenge caches very easily, with like a 98% accuracy by just looking for mystery caches with the word challenge in the title, not only is there an icon now that's available to cache owners to be able to search by mystery with challenge in the title, potentially with the attribute, but if you think of all the thousands of caches that are out there are challenge caches. Let's say there's 2,000 of them in one region. If someone says, my cache is a mystery cache, I want it to be a challenge cache. If they change their icon, well, what if that cache were a qualifier for someone else's challenge cache? Then their challenge checker won't work anymore. Breaks. The other one, and probably a bigger one, is if everybody who has a challenge cache decided they were going to create an identical challenge cache to the one they've got, but this time around they're going to give it the challenge cache icon. Are we really any further ahead? We'd have an awful lot of duplicates. So all the challenges you've already found and qualified for, they may as well just be trads at that point. So having that icon, in my opinion, as a player, would be a little redundant and would lead to a lot of duplication. As an owner of a challenge cache, folks can find my cache because it's got word challenge in the title, it's a mystery cache, and I can add that attribute. Having a separate icon, it just would complicate things. Think of all of the challenges out there that say you must find 7 of 8 whatevers, or 4 or 5 whatevers, and people have an extra icon all of a sudden to play with. It's a lot like back in the day when they would ban a song from the radio and everybody would run out and buy it. It's very similar. You give folks a new icon, they're going to run out and hide it. So I would prefer quality over quantity. So I don't know what HQ have planned, but my personal feeling is that that would not be conducive. But there are arguments the other way saying, well, it'll be easier to find, it would promote more people into the game, maybe it'd be easier to differentiate with the guidelines. I don't know, but we have an attribute, and they're not hard to find today.
I like it now that they have specified that it has to have challenge in the title. It makes it. You can actually look at finding them easier because of that. Just, hey, show me all the caches that are mystery that have challenge cache. You might get one that's not a challenge cache, because of the word challenge, but at least you can narrow it down that way.
Yeah. And some of the, I would say, the granddaddy of the challenge caches in Ontario have. There's one that springs to mind that may not have the word challenge in it. That is incredibly famous, and it's so famous that it doesn't need the word challenge. But it would be one that.
Is that an older one? Is that an older one though?
It is indeed an older one.
Yeah, so it didn't have to at the time. Now it does. Yeah.
And let's see if anybody pops up in the chat and knows which one that is. Okay.
Yeah. Let's find out. Next question. What is your recommended course of action when a new cacher logs a DNF for a cache you know is a little tougher to find, and you're the CO?
You post a note in the cache page, cache is in place, it's tougher to find. As long as you've checked it and it's there, not everybody will find it. We want folks to log their DNFs to alert the cache owner, because what if it wasn't there? There are tough finds that we can assume are tough to find, and then we find out that someone cut down the tree.
Yeah.
So
send
information.
Send them an email. Hey, thanks for looking for my cache, blah, blah, blah.
Post
could
a
be
note.
one way. It depends on if they're fair. Like if I've had that just a couple of, not too long ago, somebody put a message on there, couldn't find it, and so it's probably missing, and I looked up, they've only found 5 caches. Oh, well, they're probably, this one's really hard. So I just tried to explain it, and then said, welcome to geocaching, and they were brand new. So what % of puzzle caches in Ontario are challenge caches?
That's a very good question. I'd have a click buttons for that. So
Button clicking.
I can. So you keep chatting. I'll see if I can come up with that.
Oh, I meant mystery caches versus puzzle cache. Well, what's the difference? I don't know.
I'm not on my regular machine here, so we have. So if we go into the search, we can check that on our own. Actually, I'm on my regular machine today, so give me a moment or two, and I'll come back with numbers.
I do know. Yeah, well, you can come back. I do know that 1/4 of the amount of challenge caches published in Ontario have been created by one specific geocacher from Ontario. I won't say the name because they're not here right now, but they've done a great job with challenge caches.
Absolutely.
Tom Jameson, if you change a hide, it makes it tougher or easier. Do you think that the DT should change or leave it as it is? This is very similar to the question we had before. If
you're going from a D1 to a D5, that's a pretty big change. You're changing the experience, right? If you're going from a D2 to D2.5, I think the cache page should reflect the experience. And if that means that I am archiving and creating a new one, that's my choice as a cache owner. And I want to know what day it's opening.
Cola.
But what kind of cola?
No name. PC.
Good call.
I have an answer to that question, and I was thinking of it in the previous question. I didn't get a chance to say. If it, like you said, if it's a 1.5 2, and it needs to change to a 1.5 3.5 or whatever, no big deal. But in our research for doing our Earth Cache Fizzy, we have found one individual from Germany. So far, this is the only person we found that could complete a complete Fizzy based solely on Earth caches. And I have the name written down somewhere, and they had the complete grid. And then the next time I looked it up, about 6 months later, they were missing one square, because the one square that they had, somebody had changed the rating of the Earth cache, which completely erased their full grid. And our friend Liz Downey was, based on the number of caches in the world from that rating, was able to narrow down the geocache of which one actually changed and why. And it was a very good reason why the rating changed for that Earth cache. But it completely messed up that person's stats, just on that one.
Which leads you back again to, do the stats matter that much? It depends if you're finding challenge caches or not. So, and I think 15.98% of Ontario's mystery caches have the word challenge in the title of active ones.
Okay. Okay. With painted rocks being seen as problematic in some areas, any chance that concern could hop over to geocache containers too?
Of course, there's a chance.
Always.
Objectively, who knows? We know that folks are more risk averse, they're more aware of things that they don't understand and want to come up with ways to protect things. And so if people are placing containers and other folks are finding them, if those containers didn't have permission or if there wasn't awareness, that could be seen negatively.
Yeah.
If those containers draw attention to themselves and stick out like a sore thumb in a conservation area, that might raise some attention. It could occur at any point in time, but there are also situations where folks who have had restrictive caching policies have relaxed them because they've understood the benefits of caches coming to their locations, removing garbage, beautifying the area, bringing other visitors to the place who are respectful. It's ebb and flow, always has been.
Camper69 says, I do not like challenge caches and want to filter them out. You can. It's fairly easy to do. Challenge caches are not for everyone, especially a new geocacher. I remember being a new geocacher and looking at challenge caches and thinking, there's no way I am ever going to be able to qualify for that challenge, but I can now, and it's not for everyone. And you know, I've been lucky to be able to travel a lot until recently, so I can satisfy a lot of challenge caches, and it does usually take travel. But it's not for everyone. And Houston, Texas Days says we need a challenge chat icon for Cache Canada. And I still don't have this one. Tequila 81 proof.
That's the one.
That's the one you were mentioning before. Somebody's going to ask. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, you're right. It doesn't have the word challenge in it. That's true. No wonder I can't find it. Someday I'll have to look that one up and work on it. Should HQ promote the lesser found cache types such as multi or letterbox? Hello, geocacher Ken. It's nice to see you join us from Manitoba.
I'm not sure HQ need to promote specific cache types. I think players need to create caches that give better experiences, which could be multis. And letterboxes, because there are other caches with a rubber stamp, I've yet to find a rubber stamp that really changed my life, personally. So any other cache type that's not where I go, that's physical, plus a stamp equals letterbox. Maybe that's why folks don't hide them, is you have to run into that issue of you put a rubber stamp in and someone comes along and goes, "Oh, pretty rubber stamp, mummy," and off they go, and it's no longer a letterbox. So that one kind of solves itself. But multis, a lot of folks also take an approach that, well, if it's a multi and I went to 3 places, why didn't you just hide 3 trads and I get 3 smileys? And I would like multis to get some more love because they're lesser found, but they take more effort. And maybe that's a reason why. But they may not be as popular, but typically they are well worth the effort.
I'm going to skip over this question and come right back with this comment. And here you go. You just answered that. Why don't people like multis? You kind of answered that.
Oh.
Yeah. And here's a comment. Very nice. Thank you very much. No question, just remarks. I have enjoyed listening to the show. We'll have to join in again. Explaining things are great. Wish I had known about this talk years ago. There's
Great to have you along.
Yeah, different ways of bringing it together. With Cache Canada, we're just happy to be able to bring CacheShadow into live form, as everybody can see them and try to
there's
talk
all
to them.
kinds of content on this channel and many others. I would never miss it for the world.
Awesome. Okay, here we go. What would you say is your favorite part of geocaching? Question for both. Sorry if it's been asked before. In a different form.
It's a different form.
Yeah.
As much as I like the thrill of the find, I think it was the arranging like road trips and the list of caches to find with a bunch of friends, and goal caching. You come up with the I want to find a cache in every county town in England, every capital city in the States, every whatever,
Hmm.
one in every county in Ontario. The planning and the alignment with other folks who have a similar goal, it's awesome. Love it. But it could simply be I'm going to find 5 caches today, and I'm not going to stop until I do. And you find that fifth one, you met your goal, and that's the great thing about it.
Yeah. I like the road trip aspect of planning, like with Cache Tour, not just with Cache Tour, but putting together a series of caches to look for, so that you have something to look forward to in different places. And it's like I like going on a hike. I love seeing the countryside, but to have something else to look for while I'm doing that hike is so much more enjoyable. It makes getting out and seeing things so much better than and just going for a hike and just seeing something. I love adding geocaches to our travel, and now we take geocations. I love geocations.
Yes, I tell my
Uh,
wife they're vacations, but really the geocations. Shh.
yes, yes. You thought this was going to be a beer I was going to open? Yeah, I had wine earlier, and that was enough. So I'm trying to cut down a little less. Pizza Ninja. If I had a cache with a word lock on it, where would you need to solve a riddle to open it? What attributes should the cache have?
Field puzzle.
Field puzzle.
So do a field puzzle. If the riddle's solved on site, that's great. If you're solving it elsewhere, same attribute. It just might be potentially different cache type. And by the way, I did see a question from Pizza Ninja earlier on, and I'm going to tell you, and I'm sorry about this. It's sausage and pineapple.
Oh, okay.
Those are my favorite pizza toppings.
Ah, very good. Um, I just made coleslaw today, and I put pineapple in it.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It was very good. Will HQ ever consider locking DT ratings?
I have no idea what HQ will ever consider.
Hmm.
That would be interesting, wouldn't it? Even
Yeah.
if they had an option where they would track the DT rating on the cache page, so when you changed it, it would make a log like a coordinate update, whether they lock it, whether they give you the option to put it what it was originally and what it is now. Those are all options. I'm sure that it's on their huge list of things to fix and consider. But at this
Hmm.
point in time, I do not know of what they plan.
Hmm.
They're normally
And
working on new things or fixing things for the players just to make
yeah,
sure the game's more fluid. That one would probably have a very low use case need.
yeah, yeah. Hmm. Dave Stevens. Wow, good to see you, Dave. Can of worms. But does TOT, T-O-T-T, require a T5 rating? And is a kayak or canoe a TOT?
This one changes over time. Remember back in the day when even having the ability to look stuff up online would have been a crazy tool of the trade. Like you're finding a cache with your Garmin eTrex Yellow and you have to find the capital city of such and such. You have one of those phone computer things. Oh my gosh, it's a 5. Or I found caches that required you to look at what the Wi-Fi signal was. You had to bring a laptop. That was a 5. You needed the tool of the trade. Where now we take our phone out of our pocket, and if you tell me to look for a Wi-Fi signal, it probably isn't going to be a 5. It changes over time. Difficulty and
Yep.
terrain are incredibly subjective. There is an unwritten rule, and the reviewer might nudge you on this, saying, "Hey, if you have a cache that requires watercraft, not everybody necessarily has one of those in their glove box just waiting to go. You want to consider that terrain rating to be up a bit. So if you go onto the caching site, it might seem a little dated, but there is a terrain difficulty and terrain calculator that's on geocaching site that helps you kind of sorta
Hmm.
work out what the terrain should be. And I think if you put on there requires floaty boat, it might jack up your terrain rating.
Yep.
There are folks who might say, if you need a boat, make it a T5. But there are folks who say, hey, I carry a ladder with me the entire time. Why would I need to carry a ladder and make it a terrain 5. But one person's terrain 2 is another person's terrain 5. So if
Yeah.
GPS Derek and I go caching, I'd be like, oh, it's T4 man, and he reaches down to his waist and pulls his cache out of the top of a tree. So it's very subjective.
Yeah, some places I've been listening to other podcasts, and they say as soon as you have to get into the tree, it's a T5, or you bring out a ladder, it's a T5. We did a video 2 years ago, I think, for the Geo Challenge of the Month, and what the challenge was to use a tot. And what we were doing was canoeing around one of the ponds in Ontario, and we mentioned, hey, this is our tot. It's the canoe. It's the tool of the trade. Yeah.
If I were rule of the universe, what I would like is for the cache owner to be able to rate their cache, and for finders to be able to choose what D&T it would be, and that would go back to the cache owner only, and it would give them an average, and they would have the option, if I were ruler of it all, to display the finder's average, if they so chose, on the cache page. I think that would be a lovely thing to do. But
Neat.
I am not ruler of the universe.
Holly G. Boxer Bailey, what are your thoughts about disabling caches if your province is locked down and are not allowed to leave our municipalities except for essentials?
Comes down to the individual's personal choice.
That was big on the first lockdown that we had last year. A lot of people were disabling their caches. Now this time, like, yeah, whatever.
And truly, if you
Yeah.
don't want people to be tempted by your cache because they may be making decisions that you question of them, that is an option available to you.
Yep. Is this a question just involving finding? I don't know if there's. I just don't think the ones involving finding multiple tags, but if they invoke getting info from signs and others, then that's okay. Here they go. Jennifer Abel. Dave Stevens, yes, tweezers can be a tot.
Yep. UV lights, toothpicks.
Yep.
And actually, nowadays, AA batteries. Back in the day, you'd come across some gadget caches and you'd whip off the battery cover on your Garmin and you'd put them in and solve the cache. And now it's like, wow, I have to take batteries with me because I use my phone for caching. Yep.
Yeah. In your opinions, what size do you call a micro, small, medium, and so on? That depends.
Too many one-liners. So the graphic on the site when you hide your cache has a little, got these 4 little boxes, and it shows like bigger than a bread box, whatever. That graphic was actually something that I had suggested way back, and it's morphed a bit over time. But if you look at small, think about things and whether they can take trackables. So that could hold a trackable, but you might call it small. Whereas a micro typically cannot hold the average trackable. Yes, I know you can get thumbnail size trackables. And medium might be a trackable and maybe a playing card, deck of cards. It's a little subjective. And I think that if you look at what's on the listing page, it helps you out. One person's medium. so that might be considered small as well to some folks. But there used to be that a large was considered something like an ammo can. But then people say, oh, no, large is something the size of a tub. It's a little subjective, but you know what a micro is.
That's a micro.
Because it's something you're not going to hide a geocoin in, would be kind of a rule of thumb. Small and medium blend, anything above medium to large. Bigger question is, well, here's one for Dave. So if someone says that the cache is let's say a small, but it's inside something that's larger.
That's a good question. We've run into that recently. Yeah. if this was inside a large box and they claim it as a large, is this just holding the log?
See, in
So it,
my personal view is the size is what you're looking for. And someone will say, well, hold on a second, but that makes no sense because the thing inside that won't hold a geocoin. It's a micro. I'm like, well, but I was using it to find the cache. It's not necessarily looking for a home for a trackable. So it's really nice that you've got that bowling ball that someone stuck you with, and you're looking for this extra large cache. And when you get there, there's a tiny door and this huge object
yeah.
with a nano inside it. That's tough. My personal view is the size is what you're looking for. Your mileage may vary.
Yes.
Good question.
What is your opinion on micros in the woods?
I love watching people look for them.
We should do a video on that next. Okay, I'll put that on the list. Cache Canada goes finding a micro in the woods.
And we have seen several microwave ovens in the woods as a result of that question.
Yes. Yeah. Just saw one. Geocaching with Hailmeister just did one. If we had a really good cache and it's large enough to hold TBs, can we also call it a T hotel? Or do we need to have HQ permission? No, you don't need HQ permission to call it a TP hotel. Anything could be a TB hotel.
Yeah, TB hotel, trackable hotel, saloon to TB, whatever works for you.
Travel bug rest stop, bed and breakfast. Yeah, how long are we? Oh, we're almost coming up on 2 hours, so we're going to have to pick a winner. And great show. Thanks, CacheShadow, for answering all the questions.
You're welcome. You have a time thing on this?
No. As long as people are still happy, we're good. And I'm still not up to the point where I've stopped into the new comments yet, so we're good.
Well, Dave says the Jays are up 3-0, so that's good.
The Jays are playing? Oh, I didn't know. Is the Stanley Cup over yet? I don't know. I don't know where they are.
Long time since I've watched hockey.
There we go. Tom Jameson again. What do you think is the least used attribute?
10
we could
kilometer
probably
hike.
find that out. And
10-kilometer hike.
Really?
Wow.
What attribute? What attribute do you think? Yeah. Yes. Partnership is probably the least. Yeah. I think there's 9 in the world. 9 or 7. I have it on a list somewhere. For me, it is not available in winter. What attribute do you think should use more? Yes. Yeah, because people, especially when you have a low cache near the ground, not available in the winter, it's going to be under the snow. Yeah, should be used more. I agree. And the least used, it's probably the... and where are the caches that you need... what were we talking about? The ones where you need...
Your Dave.
Yeah, I know. I can't remember. I'm gone. If you need a boat, wait until the winter and water freezes. Yes, perfect. You know what? I missed my timing on that because there was a cache we were going to get, and it just started to warm up. I said, hey, let's go get this cache. And Karen said, no, let's wait. And we waited, and it got warm, and it never got cold again. Okay, J3, winter, okay, blah, blah. I have to scroll through the comments so I can find... I think you should be elected ruler of the earth.
Oh, that would not be pretty.
Oh, my gosh. Okay, here we go. Dreamin' Machine. How long do you typically give yourself for a tougher DT traditional or a cache final before giving up?
I have spent hours at some caches, and I've spent 90 seconds at other ones. And it depends on my day, whether it was a gold cache, whether I just pulled up and stopped to check.
Mm-hmm.
One of my first experiences of a tough cache was in Quebec. I had a house in Montreal. And right around from the house was my closest to home. And when I first started, and that cache drove me batty. And it was a trad. And the day I found it, it was one of those, you know what, it's around here somewhere, like could be, and I had probably spent 5-6 hours looking for that thing. It really depends on the day, but after a while, it's the feeling of defeat. If it's easy to get to, you kind of stop by and want to check it again and again.
There we go. Stanley Cup playoff, Game 1, Washington versus Boston.
Oh,
How long have you both been geocaching? Roy has been caching longer than I have.
I have? Okay, 2007?
So,
Yeah,
2012.
funny.
April, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, it was April 2.
Ah.
And thank you to Fingers Crossed, my brother, Graham, his wife Laurie, for getting me into the game.
We had a friend of ours was doing it, and then I didn't have time to do it then, and then I came back to it, and then I thought, if that person can do it, we should be able to too. So
Look at you now.
yeah, who would have known? And Gary Robinson's my least found attribute is not recommended for tourists.
Which makes you wonder. Does that mean it takes a long time, which is really ugly?
Yeah, how were you introduced into geocaching?
Oh, well, look at that. I did my own segue.
There you go.
Many moons ago, I got a phone call from my brother, and he'd asked me to make an account on this geocaching website thingy to give him some information because he was out trying to find something. And a few weeks later, he asked if I would be able to drive him and his family down this dirt road, so Swift Rapids Road, so GC619. So my first cache find was GC619. And I drove down the road. I knew the road well, mud, 4x4, grr. And with the very end, he hands me this GPS, says, yeah, go find it. So, whatever. Do. Oh, it's kind of fun. Follow the arrow. Oh, it's contained. I haul this thing out, and then there's a logbook with logs all the way back to 2001. And I'm like, what? I like this. So we drove back down, found a whole bunch of caches that day, and at the same time I was working, and part of my job I had an old HP Pocket PC, and it had a rudimentary GPS on it, and I used that to find a couple of caches, and here we are today.
Mm-hmm. I was doing research for writing a book on the War of 1812, and I saw a listing for a skirmish that happened in Ohio, and it was near a cairn. And the site that I was looking at, it was a motorcycle riders club site, and they were talking about the cairn and the history of the skirmish that was there. And it also said, oh, and by the way, there's a geocache there on the site. And I go, what's a geocache? So I looked it up, and that's when I discovered the geocaching website. I go, wow, that sounds really cool. But we were reenacting, and I was busy with this research that I was doing, and we just didn't have time, and it sounded very difficult. I just couldn't get it into my head how you do this. And then, of course, we had a friend that was doing it, and I thought, well, if she can do it. So then I just went onto Google or onto YouTube, and I asked how to find coordinates using a Garmin Nuvi. So that's what we had as a GPS device. I didn't have a smartphone. And there was a video that showed me how to find coordinates. And I'm like, I didn't know my device could do that. So for the first 8 months, maybe a year, I don't know how long, we were using the Garmin Nuvi, and I was carrying it with me out of the vehicle, and you could force the thing off the road. As soon as you got off the road far enough, that car would pop over into the bush, and you could get within about 20 meters, and then you had to search. And we weren't doing a lot of difficult caching with that. We did a trip. I started geocaching seriously in April, and then that July we went to Alberta and British Columbia. So I'm like, I better do geocaching while we're there, because it'll probably add to the trip, which it did. And after that, I was doing some geocaching. I had a BlackBerry, and you couldn't do geocaching on a BlackBerry, but I was with the Garmin, my BlackBerry, and I was making some notes, and it was raining. And the rain got into the BlackBerry keyboard, and it done. And then I'm like, yes, I can buy a smartphone now. So there you go.
Been throwing that thing in the bathtub for years. I just kept living.
Yeah. Okay. Should caches in libraries and conservation areas, etc., that are closed due to COVID be temporarily disabled?
If a cache shouldn't or cannot be found for whatever reason, it would make sense for the cache owner to disable it, whether it be construction zone, whether there be a nest of ospreys hanging out with the cache, whether it be whatever. So if something is closed and accessible, disabling it takes it off other people's radar, which seems very courteous in my mind.
Yep. What is your favorite Ontario oldie?
It will be GC619. So that was my first find. Love it, and I've since adopted it. But there's a few others. Even Shortcut to the Old Cabin, I love that cache. The Dingle is probably another one of my favorite caches.
I don't have that one yet. It's on our list.
It's a great location.
Yeah. And your cache, I don't think we had. That's the one that road access changed.
Road access change. Apparently, right now it's open again.
Oh, okay.
But the definite way, the definite way is to floaty vote it and go through the locks. But it's a great location.
Can I do that in a canoe?
You can indeed.
How long would it take?
Read the cache page for the people who've done it in the canoe.
Okay. Okay. I will.
I'm going to keep one.
Okay. It's on our to-do list. A video coming soon. Well, at some point.
Steve is a cache baby from April as well. Hugs back, buddy.
Yeah, there you go. Boom. Your least favorite part of being a reviewer?
It's actually pretty positive. I'm trying to think of if there's a least favorite part.
Having to work with CacheDrone.
There are worse things. No.
I just had to get that in there.
I
love you, Colin.
I think the one thing is that you get so much feedback from people, legitimate feedback. People give you ideas. They give you ideas on fixing things, or they say this could be better. And you become a funnel for communication. And there's a finite amount of things that you actually have the ability to influence. And the same way as even for HQ, if people contact HQ directly, there's probably this laundry list of suggestions people have for new features and what they could do to improve the game. But you can't action them all. Being a reviewer, you get more of that feedback, and you have less chance to action it for people. And it's a fact of life, but I just wish I had a magic wand.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's a Facebook group for that road too. Great road, 11 kilometers, 176 turns.
Fantastic road.
Wow. How many times, if any, have you been stopped by police? Have you ever had any problems with them not understanding geocaching?
Never had any problems. I've been stopped 4 or 5 times. 3 of those times were in the States. And I think what helped is there was a group of folks. Here, the 2 times that were most memorable, thinking about it, the license plate helped. So even having a GPS is one thing, but having a shirt with some geocaching logo on it is slightly helpful. But in Ontario, for those folks who aren't in Ontario, we have the option of getting license plates for our vehicles that have the geocaching logo on them for an extra $82. That really helps, because there have been times where I've had cruisers slow down and you see them kind of pause for a second and off they go, and I'm thinking, what if you saw the plate? And folks have reported that they've had police pull up and say, checking what you were doing, but we saw the license plate. We've heard of this thing. And even when you're crossing the border, back when we used to do that into the States, it was always best to tell the border officers exactly what you're doing, not only because you're supposed to, but it acclimatizes them to what geocaching is. So if 50 people cross the border in a week and say, I'm geocaching, maybe that border guard has a Tuesday morning meeting where he says, yeah, these people keep saying this thing, and they get awareness. Well, the plate has made a big difference for that too, because they're like, we know what you're doing. All right, thanks for playing.
I think in some cases, the border guards especially, or even police, that they'll ask you, or you say geocaching, they go, well, what's that? They already know, and they just want to know if you know. right? Because because you could be using it as an excuse, and they go, well, then you explain the geocache, and they already know. But I had one at Port Huron going into Michigan, and we were with another couple, and we were going geocaching, and he was I don't know if he woke up on the wrong side of the bed, but I said, well, we're going geocaching. He goes, where? And I go, I don't know, it's some small town up near Flint. He goes, you don't know where you're going? No, I know exactly where I'm going, but I can't tell you right now. And he goes, no, I want to know the town. Okay, hang on a sec. Now I'm trying to pull out my phone. Look, okay, it's Dingleberry. I don't know where it is. And one, he said, what? There's not enough. There's no good geocaching in Ontario. Like, well, there is, but not what I want. And what I wanted was in Michigan. He goes, okay, go, have a good time. And we have been stopped by the police 3 times. Once was in Texas, and that kind of scared me. It was the second oldest geocache in Texas on the side of the road. It was a bit of a curve, and we had stopped, and we were just about ready to go in up the little rock climb up to the cache, and the cruiser stopped, and I'm like, uh-oh, like I'm hearing horror stories of state troopers, and he just stopped. What are you doing? Oh, geocaching. Oh, and he goes, oh, you're just kind of close to the road. Just be careful. Oh, okay, thanks. And off he went. That was good. And the very first time was I was trying to find a cache, and I was having a difficult time. A car pulled up behind us, and Karen elected to stay in the car, and then she started laughing because we got muggled. We were fairly new at geocaching, and the guy wanted to know what I was doing, and I was looking at a pipe that was Union Gas, and I was, as the geocache hidden around it. And I said, I'm not doing anything. I'm just geocaching. And he goes, well, that's Union Gas property. And he got really upset. And I'm like, uh-oh. I said, better go. And then he pulled in. Sorry, he parked beside the car. Then he pulled in, and he started. And I go, oh, Karen, we have to go. And we have to go right now. And he goes, why? He's writing down our license plate number. And he called us in. And I expected, we were on a little bit of a road trip towards another town in Ontario, and I thought as soon as we got home there would be a police cruiser in the driveway. There wasn't. And then I was logging the caches in the basement, and then there was a knock on the door. So I picked the dog up, I went, opened the door, there's an OPP officer standing on my front step, and I said, oh, come on in, I know why you're here. And he goes, you do? Yeah, geocaching. He goes, oh, that's what you were doing. And he says, yeah, we looked up your profile. It didn't seem like you were that kind of person. What, I got a profile? And they thought we were copper stealing. That's what the person who saw us thought, we were stealing copper wire. And I said, no, I got a job. I don't need to steal copper. Bizarre. So I had to call the officer in the office in St. Thomas and explain it. He goes, oh, that's fine. Here, just call this number. Tell her what you were doing. Everything's fine. I guess the guy was pretty upset. What cool hide are you working on? Are you working on any hides?
Hides, no. Puzzles, yes.
Yeah. I have a cache I've been working on for a while. It's sitting in the shed. I've been collecting stuff for it. I've done video for it. And at some point, it's going to get done. I don't know when, but it'll be probably a cool letterbox with video element. You have to watch a video to get the coordinates. So some comments on border guards crossing the U.S. That's why we were going. And they see my plates. That's awesome. Stopped by Canadian military. I've been driving downrange. Live fire. Oh, that's not good. Sentry on one end was literally asleep at his post.
Okay, that makes a great cache log. I love that.
Cool.
Well done.
Oh, yeah. So we're getting 2 hours, and I've gone to the end of the questions. So, what do we have to give away today? Cache Canada is going to give away, let's see, 2 Cache Canada trackable tags, and they look like something like that. And 2 of our Cache Canada trackable dog tags, which we have remade. They were the very first trackable tags we've ever done. So there are 4 prizes to be won from Cache Canada.
Awesome. And I will be giving away, to add to your list, 3 CacheShadow tags.
3 CacheShadow tags. Awesome.
And we're going to add on at the very end, so even the folks who have one a tag. We'll put the name back in for an Amazon Echo Auto.
Ooh, wow. What is that?
It is a device that sits on your dashboard. It uses Bluetooth to your smartphone, and it's like having Alexa in the car.
Nice. Cool.
Yeah.
All right.
I was gifted one. I have one. I will pass it on to as a prize. Retail value of something.
Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Pick a number, but give me 1 or 2. This
2.
is for the first prize, 2. Okay, a number between 1 and 16.
7.
7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Lloyd Baker. Lloyd Baker, you've just won a Cache Canada trackable. There we go. Now, second prize, a CacheShadow trackable tag. Give me a number between 1 or 2.
1.
Let's go with 1. Good. A number between 1 and 20.
4.
1, 2, 3, 4. BK 649 and BK 73. You've won a CacheShadow trackable. Okay, so that thing is down to 2. 1 or 2.
1, then 5.
1 then 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Barry McLernan. Hopefully I can get all this right. Barry McLernan. I'll have to look that up, and I'll post this on Cache Canada on Facebook. You have won a Cache Canada trackable. 1 or 2.
1.
1 again, and number between 1 and 20.
17.
17. 1, 2, 3. Dave Ferris. Dave Ferris, you have won a CacheShadow trackable. That brings down to 1 left. CacheShadow. Cache Canada. CacheShadow. Cache Canada. Okay. 1 or 2?
2.
2. Number between 1 and 16.
14.
14. Boom, boom. Tim Jackson, you have won a Cache Canada dog tag. And 1 or 2?
2.
2. 1 to 16.
9.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Just Joey, you have won a CacheShadow. I think that's down to 0.
He added to her collection.
Oh, she has a bunch?
That's okay.
Okay. CacheShadow. There we go. And 1 or 2?
2.
2. 1 to 16.
2.
2. 1, 2. Houston, Texas Dave, you have won a Cache Canada dog tag. Cache Canada dog tag. And I think that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
You have great taste,
7.
Greta.
1, 2, 3, 4, 7. That's right. Okay. There we go. Thanks for the great. Okay.
But we now have to look at all those people.
Now,
we have to
all of
choose the
those
last
people.
prize.
So, if we go to 36. So, if you pick a number between 1 and 36, or you can go 1, 2, and then numbers however you want to do that.
Well, today is the 15th of the 5th, so 15 plus 5 is 20.
20. Number 20. That would be Dreamin' Machine.
There you go.
Dreamin' Machine. There you go. You win the device.
Amazon Echo Auto.
Amazon Echo Auto. Very cool. Echo Auto. Very cool. We will crunch all those numbers. We will get in touch with people who have won tonight. And let me get rid of this here. There we go. I can scroll right up. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Thank you, Roy. CacheShadow, RCA 777.
Thank you, my friend. You know what? It's a pleasure as always. And I have to tell you, doing this makes you realize how much I miss folks, and you guys particularly. So thank you to everybody.
Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us here at Cache Canada Chats. Our next Cache Canada Chats will be with Dougie B again, and he's going to be talking about getting coordinates from Adventure Labs into Cache Tour and other means, and that will be coming up, I believe, in 2 weeks. So keep an eye out for that. We will be publishing that for your information. And we're going to leave you with this little video, and then Roy and I are going to chat if I can find it. Maybe I don't have one. Da, 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 da. No, I think no. What did I do? I lost it. I lost my video. Okay, I lost my outro.
Just do
So
an
there you go.
interpretive dance.
All right, so we'll just have to sing a dong. Goodbye. Thank you. Da, 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 da. All right. Thank you, everyone. Come back and see us again.
Good night.